Thank you so much for coming back to Sarita Talks. Once more, I am just so blessed and honored to always have some awesome guests. And as everybody who's watched knows, what's very important to me and the basically my life's mission is to highlight that there are other human beings that are in the penitentiary that have all the potential to do the things that we're doing. And when we come out, we shine, we're successful, we triumph over adversity. So I'm very pleased and thankful to be able to welcome David Garcia to Sarita Talks. Hi, David.
How's it going, Sarita? How are you?
Oh man, I blessed beyond measure. Can I ask how old you are, David?
All right, so I'll be 49 this year.
49 this year. Okay. So we had a little pre-conversation like we do. And, I told him, hey, I had to earn those stripes too. And he has 15 down. So we usually like to start, just whatever you're comfortable with. And you were telling me a little bit about growing up. So maybe we can start there if that's all right.
Yeah. So growing up, I grew up I was born in the 70s. So grew up in that 80s lifestyle. There was a lot of family, a lot of TV shows that revolved around like, what they thought family should be like. And it was always sitting around the table or throwing the ball with your pops and shit like that. So,
yeah.
So at some point, when I started like recognizing what was going on around me and my own family and stuff, I started realizing that it's not really like that.
No.
So I grew up in a military background, and then at a young age, I started noticing, the family wasn't like moving together like how it was showing on TV. So it just kind of opened up my eyes to to kind of see what was going on behind the scenes and stuff. So I started realizing that growing up in a structured background, a military, and then having a good family and what we were seeing, that's not what was going on behind scenes for us and in my lifestyle.
Okay. Who was in the military?
So my dad was in the military.
Okay. And did your mom work outside the home?
So my mom was that old school TV wife, stay at
Yeah.
home Susie homemaker.
Okay. So it's not equating though. You're seeing some fissures, some cracks. Tell us what happens next.
What happened next is because I was seeing that was going on, I didn't have no parental guidance, so I started going off doing my own thing. So when I started going off doing my own thing, I'm that boy and I'm exploring everywhere and I'm going places where I shouldn't be. And then I'm just wanting to fit in, to this crowd, that crowd, just trying to figure out my identity. But we moved around a lot, because we were in the military scene with my pops. And so originally I was born in Chicago, Illinois. And then because my dad was in the military, we were shipped out to California. We landed up in Nevada in the 90s. And at that time, my father had turned over to be they were pastors. And in that pastoral lifestyle, you know what I mean? Like I started feeling like the family was tending to other people's families more than their own for me. And I felt neglected. So that's when I went ahead and found my own family of my own. And
in the gang.
In the gangs.
Yeah.
So
let me ask you this, because this has been my experience just personally. My family was heavily involved in the church. And then my dad and my mom split. And I just went from trying to be the best I could to getting into the most I could. I mean, can you relate there a little bit? It's like if I don't know, I was such an overachiever at being good that I decided, let me just overachieve at being bad. And it didn't work out well for me, audience. Not at all. But tell us about it, David.
Well, I could never compete because I had an older brother. And the older brother, the firstborn, he kicked it under my pops' shadow for a lot of years, so whatever my pops had to give, he was ready to give it to the older child. So when I came along a couple of years later, it's like I can never live up to what my brother was doing. He was going to school and he was getting the good grades. For me, it just wasn't that. So I just went black sheep all the way with it, and then I felt like because moms and pops were doing the church thing, I felt like, well, what about us? What about me? Where's that love that I think I need? Why are you showing it to other people? So that just gave me the rite of passage to do whatever I want. And, you know what I mean?
Right.
And the streets were welcoming.
True, because there's lots of father figures out there, and they're going to teach you how to go straight to prison or die or become hopelessly addicted to drugs. What gang were you affiliated with, if you don't mind?
All right. Well, I was affiliated with the Sureños out of Nevada.
Okay. So as people, I don't know if you watch TV or whatever, that's a huge gang and it has a very powerful presence within the prison system. Would you agree?
I agree.
Okay. And where were you incarcerated at?
So fortunately for myself, I didn't get incarcerated in Nevada. So when I moved out to New Mexico, I got incarcerated in New Mexico outside of my backyard. So it was pretty easy breezy for me from there because I felt like because of my loyalty to Nevada, anything that happened in New Mexico outside of my backyard didn't have nothing to do with me. So my involvement my involvement in the system in New Mexico, it was non-existent.
Okay. And that's a wonderful opportunity that you were able to carpe diem seize and make the day go better. Because when you are politicking and all that, it's a hard. I mean, you always have to think 3-4 steps ahead. Now, a lot of the things we learn in prison, I feel like transcend into wonderful work habits and also an intuitive discernment that a lot of people out here don't see. David, would you agree we can walk into a room and read it? And if you talk to me and you tell me something that I know is not true, and I think it happens a lot too when they're like, oh, they just got out of prison, let's just dumb it down. I understand probably more so than you ever could what's really taking place. So now I skipped ahead. That's my but you're feeling what I get thus far is you're alone. You're feeling alone, you're feeling neglected, you're feeling like everybody's getting attention but you. So now you found these new friends. Yeah, I hate those new friends, but go ahead.
Well, which new friends are you talking about?
Which new friends were the ones that led you to being incarcerated? Because it's always a process.
So here's the thing. So growing up in a structured neighborhood, doing anything outside of drinking and maybe smoking a little bit of bud was considered a violation because once somebody gets addicted to get on drugs, they kind of lose themselves, and they become untrustworthy. So
they do. They lose themselves.
They do. So I didn't do anything when I was back home in Nevada, but when I got outside of the neighborhood and I was living in New Mexico, it's whatever, and I started picking up habits and I started picking up pain, but I would never knew how to fix that pain, but that habit was picking up more, just to kind of like, throw the smoke on top of what I was really dealing with. Yeah. I got married, soon after when I moved to New Mexico, when I got out of prison the first time. I don't mean to jump ahead, but
no, that's okay.
So that's where everything really turned for the worse for myself, is getting involved in a relationship right out of prison the first time. I never grew up.
Did she do drugs or have a history with drugs too?
No, not at all.
Okay. And did she remain off drugs through the course of the relationship?
Yeah.
Good for girl, wherever you're at, you keep doing what you're doing, I hope. All right, that's right. That's right. Don't you let no man lead you astray. That's what happened to me. So let me tell you, you mentioned that was your first time going to prison. How many times have you been to prison?
Shit, man. So 3 different times. And the last one was the 15 stretch. It was a lot of in and out and trying to put me on this program for rehab. And it was when a lot of changes were trying to be made and they're trying to figure out what to do with us.
Yeah. So this whole time you're just collecting trauma. So would you agree? And everybody should know, if you don't know, this is Men's Health Month. So a lot of times, now I'm not a man. I have a son. I'm a boy mom. He's 26 years old. But let me tell you this, there's a lot of things that men don't feel comfortable expressing, like, oh, I don't want to be a punk. I don't want to da-da-da. And I feel like luckily more people are taking into context that, hey, we need to make sure that men know they can express their feelings so they don't make permanent decisions on temporary feelings that leave them a victim of suicide. So it's Men's Health Month. You've come out of prison the first time. Instead of taking care of yourself, if I'm reading in too much, stop me. But instead of taking care of you, you get in a relationship. How's that go?
So relationship didn't go too good. I mean, it did at first, but it started off rocky. She was young, I was still young, and she was coming out of a relationship. So it wasn't a clean break from that other end. So it kind of overlapped, and that overlapping caused a lot of distrust within me, and towards that situation. Because if she could, you know how they say, if they could do it to them, they could do it to the other.
Do it to you, yeah.
But it happened. It happened just like that. But
oh man.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? Hats off to her, because she is a good woman.
Yeah.
And but we weren't good for each other. That's how that situation rolled out.
Okay.
But I got involved, and I fell too hard at the beginning, even though knowing the situation wasn't coming out. We weren't moving into the situation just clean, because she had that baggage. But that rested on my heart, on my shoulders. We were together for about 6 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah. And when so many times, I could have backed out or she could have backed out, but we pushed it, we tried. So it was emotional towards the end, and we tried to split. But the split for me, because I've already had that addictive lifestyle, I went straight to what I knew best. So it was a little bit of the street hustle, and then it was the substance use. And then I put them together, and then I was just a functioning addict, just making bread on the side.
Okay, well, at least you were functioning, because let me tell you, I started smoking crack after being a junkie, and I was like, man, I got more done being a junkie than I ever did smoking crack. But here's the thing, like, we will get out there and hustle. And I remember I had a friend that said, sweetie, you had the rent money about 3 times in the last couple of days. Are you ever going to pay your rent? I mean, like, clearly drugs are a device, and I don't know what your religious beliefs are, but I have no problem saying I believe in God. And if you believe in God, you got to believe in the devil too. And that is, I feel like, a powerful device that you can be strong, you can be smart, but if you get hooked on drugs, those drugs control you. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so now your heart is broken. You've always kind of felt like you were neglected, and now it's 6 years later, you're leaving out of this relationship. What happens next?
All right, so I'm already in New Mexico. I know a lot of people over there, family, and then I have one of my close friends just living out there, ready to open up his door if any of his friends needed him. So I was that friend in need. But his situation, he was doing things that that just kind of got me closer back to that life. So that's the first thing I did, is I started using again, and then I started moving a couple things, and I just started picking up a paper trail for myself in New Mexico with the judicial system. And you know how they say, God will do things to you, and he'll sit you down. He'll sit you down, or before he breaks you off. So he's and all those things were lining up, and I was noticing, just, you got pulled over and they didn't search you down this time, or you got out of there and you didn't get caught this time, and then until God had to sit me down. And then that's when I picked up my big case. So
and served altogether 15 years on that one case.
So on that one case, about 13, and then the rest were the in and out part.
Well, let me tell you this. So I served 14 and a half, never missed a day, was there every day of it. And I actually thank God, because I feel like he put me on a missionary trip. Even though I wasn't living my life right, no one could have told me that I would have woke up one day and been going to prison for armed criminal action and second-degree murder. Like, it wasn't in my realm of thinking that could have been me. And I tell people all the time, like, even when I was a drug addict and I would have been like, oh no, you've done what? Like, so judgmental. And I didn't know that there were people that looked like me, because it was me in there doing big time. But like I said, I'm thankful that happened in my life, because I was able to come out with the perspective that, hey, I'd rather, shoot myself in the head than use drugs again, because that was for real my downfall. Like all the things that I was doing, if I would have stayed up, I could see how it steered my life. So during this 13 years, I'm assuming, if I'm right, we make a decision. What was the decision you made, David, how you're going to live when you got out here?
Man, so my decision was, so I'm a level 6 gang member inside the prison system. So my time there is 23-1 until they find an appropriate yard. And that appropriate yard at that time was never back in population where they thought maybe I can get at somebody. And I'm not a violent person, but because of that whole affiliation thing from my childhood gang, it's looked at in the prison system as a potential to be something problematic if I get with the wrong people. So they pull me off the yard, and I'm doing 23-1. And
let me just tell everybody what 23-1 is. 23 hours in your cell, 1 hour out. And usually this is how it was in women's prison. You're handcuffed until you make it to like the cage outside. Is it similar? 23 hours in a cell and then 1 hour out? And is that hour?
It's an hour rec time, and any movement once that sally port opens, your food port opens, if you're coming out, you're handcuffed from behind and you're shackled on your feet. You go to the shower in handcuffs, you go to the phone in handcuffs, you go to the visit in a cage in a video monitor, you go medical, everybody comes to you because they're smart. Any kind of movement that that we want to do, we'll find a way out of it, and we'll go do what we want to do. So they just make it easier, and they just lock the door and double lock it.
How long were you living like that?
So I picked up that title on the first time in, and I did, I think, a year and a half on that 23-1, the first round. But when I went back in and did the 13, towards the end, I think I got maybe 11 like that. And then I got
11 years,
2 years out on the appropriate yard.
11 years living in a cage. And listen, I just heard you talk about God. There are people who live like that for 20, 30 years. And the audience, people can't even wrap their mind around that. But we are right now warehousing people within the United States of America who are locked in a cell. There's no TV. I didn't have, well, let me just say, every prison's different. But you have maybe a book, and let them scream something through the, down the hallway that actually makes some sense for coherent conversation. That would be nice. Most of the time, absolutely not. It's loud. It's crazy. I spent time. I didn't always behave the best. So I know exactly what that's about. And it's just no way to treat another human being. So so let me tell you, I'm really interested to get to where you're at now and what you're doing, if you don't mind.
All right. So where I'm at now. So when I was getting ready to get released back to the streets, I had told myself, what am I going to do? So I put everything that I've always wanted to do, and I challenged myself. And I like art, and I've always liked to make T-shirts or go to the flea market and have some airbrush done. So I got into that when I got out. I planted the seed, and I created a clothing line, a little T-shirt printing business, screen printing.
Nice.
And slowly but surely, it's just been doing its thing. And
well, shout it out. Tell us how to get it.
All right, so you can check me out on Facebook, the Print Plug, or look up Pino Brown's Printing, David Garcia on Facebook. I don't know how to throw them shout out plugs, but I'm working out of the pad. I'm pretty proud of what I do. I do direct to garment printing, but at the same thing, also, I work for a foundation, Authentic Recovery Services. They do peer recovery coaching. That's my other deal. I'm going on 4 years clean this October 16th from that whole big mess that I have been on with my life. I'm just really working hard and working towards all my goals, not giving up. There's really levels to this shit. You know what I mean? And you're going to hit a lot of levels that are going to make you feel stalled out and unworthy and not ready. But you got to believe in yourself, and the return on that's going to be sick.
Yeah, I love it. Listen, so I was just about to call you out anyway, because if you got a t-shirt printing business, why wouldn't you advertise on my show? Why are you just wearing a plain white tee? So that means you have to come back. You have to come back. You're proud of what you do. I'm excited. As a matter of fact, tell me one more time. It is the printing plug?
It's the print plug.
The print plug. All right. Well, listen, David, thank you for coming on. There's more. There's more we need to talk about. So David's coming back. And for the main reason, he needs to rep what he's doing.
All right. Next time I will. Next time I will.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because iron sharpens iron. And it's all about profiling that this same man who was locked in a cell 23 hours a day, only to come out for 1 hour, had a goal, had an ambition, had a dream, and is out here killing it and helping others. David, you want to tell us anything else before we get off here?
Man, I just want to let everybody know, if you're out there and you're facing some adversity in life, don't give up. You know what I mean? It really is worth it. Everybody's worth an opportunity. So go out and get it.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming. We appreciate you.